Hello there. Before I show you this over-the-board game I just played today in the morning, I would just like to make a short comment regarding my recent passivity on the YouTube. So if you have been following my channel, you might have noticed that I'm not as active on YouTube as I used to be. I have started this Soviet School of Chess and now I stopped with this project as well. Well, the reason is because I made a retrospective of my improvement in the last year. So I just took my performance results from the online chess. So I took my online rating in all categories. I looked it on the diagram, also my puzzle rush rating and similar factors, and I noticed that my improvement is basically non-existent in the last 1 year. Everything is a straight line with occasional ups and downs. So I figured out that since my channel is called Adult Chess Improver, I might as well show some improvement because the channel doesn't make sense if I don't actually improve. So this is why I decided to take my time, to take a little bit time off YouTube and just try to work on my improvement harder. Making YouTube videos takes a lot of time, so maybe it looks easy, but it's not. I need to think about the video, I need to record the video, I need to edit the video, and it takes really quite amount of time, and I decided to use this time to actually show some improvement. So this is basically it. I'm trying to allocate my time to my chess training, and I hope I'll be able to show some improvement very soon in terms of my rating, both over the line and over the board. So as far as YouTube channel goes, I will still continue to analyze my over the board games and to show you my over the board games. These are most interesting, most useful games for you and for me. So I will continue to do this for sure, and for all other projects and on all other kinds of videos, I cannot guarantee. I will do them as I can, as my time schedule allows, and we will see. Okay, so that being said, let me show you the game I played today. So I played against in the league, in the Croatian National League. I played against a player who doesn't have international rating. So this is this local type of chess player who is just playing the league and maybe some local tournaments. He doesn't go to international tournaments, so he doesn't have international rating. So the ratings you see here on the board are national ratings. And well, they are quite similar to international, maybe a little bit overrated compared to the FIDE ratings. Anyway, just for the comparison, these are our national ratings. The game was opened with queen's pawn, so d4. I responded d5, and we went to the queen's gambit decline line with c4 and me playing e6. This is usual how I play against d4 or any other move which is not e4. Knight c3 from my opponent, knight f6, so normal development, and here he decided to go to the exchange variation, so he took the pawn, I take the pawn, and now usually these two pawns are pushed and we come to this so-called Carlsbad structure, famous Carlsbad structure. So he played knight f3, developing, I played bishop e7, just normal development moves. And here my opponent deviated a little bit from what I know to be Queen's Gambit declined or Carlsbad play or something, and he played this bishop to f4, which I know is a playable move, but usually bishop to g5 is played here, as far as I know. I'm not really an expert on the openings, but usually people play this bishop f4 when they want to avoid some kind of theory and and play it more like a system. So one of the ideas of bishop f4 is that it hits the c7 square. It's similar in Jobava London openings. So he's hitting c7, and one of the plans is to play knight to b5, and now he can maybe take the pawn, do some kind of fork and so forth. And well, this can be very easily stopped by playing c6, so fortifying this pawn, going into Carlsbad structure, and now of course he cannot play this knight to b5. My opponent played e3 here, so now full Carlsbad structure. I just castled, so normal moves. Bishop to d3, very nice place for the bishop. And you can also see that this is his strong bishop, so he has the pawns on the light squares. This bishop is already attacking the king side, so if I manage to exchange this bishop for this bishop, I will be very happy. This is what I thought as soon as he played this. And keeping this in mind, I played bishop to g4. I don't usually play bishop to g4 in the queen pawns opening. Usually it's not recommended, but here I thought it could be a nice thing to do. Because, like I said, if he tries to chase the bishop away, I can maybe exchange this very strong light square bishop. And also, of course, it's pinning the knight, so it's a nice move. He played h3, kicking away my bishop. I just retreated, keeping the pin and getting ready maybe to exchange this bishop. And here he played the first mistake, which I saw on the board was mistake, and well, later on the analysis I still think it's a mistake. And this is a rook to c1. So rook just doesn't belong to the c file in the castboard opening, because as you will see in this game and many other games, this pawn is here to stay. So this pawn is here forever. He can maybe do some kind of minority attack. I was thinking about this, of course not right now because I'm covering with the bishop, but I mean, if he tries to prepare for some kind of minority attack, I can very easily respond just by playing a5 and stop the attack. And I don't see a way how can he dislodge these two pawns, this structure. So this c file will be semi-open forever. It will never be open. So putting the rook on the file, which is not likely to be opened, is a strategic mistake. So I think this move was his first mistake. Here I just continue my development. So knight b to d7. I'm developing the knight, and now he started to reveal his strategy, which is very common among local chess players, who play chess in the pub a lot, and they usually play short time controls, so they play over the board blitz. And I recognize this mentality first because my opponent played very fast. So in this game we both have 90 minutes for start and 30 seconds increment, and he ended up just spending 5 minutes on his clock for the whole game. So this is what tells you that the player is used to quicker time controls. And also when you play in the pub, they usually play 5 plus 0, so 5 minutes and no increment. Then you play for tricks, you play for quick attack, you play for surprises and so on. So it's a whole different strategies, a whole different way of play than the player who plays long chess and who is looking for small positional advantages in order to eventually one day make use of them. So like I said, I met these kind of players, and their strategy is usually they don't castle. So first of all, they don't castle, and they try to use this tempo for not castling in order to launch an attack. And the attack is usually launched by the pawn storm, so by the pushing h pawn, and they neglect the king's safety. They neglect even material. They don't care if you snip a few pawns. They don't care if the king is in the center, as long as they can push the h pawn and start the attack and be very unpleasant on your king side. They will do it. So at this moment I realized that I'm facing this kind of player because he was playing very quickly, and he was obviously focused on pushing the pawns on the king side, and he didn't even mind to castle. Okay, so he played the g4 here, chasing away my bishop. Like I said, I was happy to play bishop to g6 because now I'm exchanging this very powerful bishop. He took the bishop. I took back with the h pawn, which is usually how you want to take the back on g6. And then he pushed g5, now hitting my knight. And here, this was the first moment in which I took some time to think. So my knight has several options. One option is to go to h5, hitting the bishop, but then the bishop can just retreat, and this knight is just out of the play. Another option, more conservative, is to go knight to e8, and now I'm covering d6, so maybe knight could jump to d6, or I could maybe insert, with the knight here, I could insert bishop d6, challenging his bishop, and so forth. But the most interesting alternative was to put the knight on e4, and well, let him take the knight. Then I take with the pawn, and then this pawn kind of hangs, because if you can imagine, after this exchange, well, this pawn cannot be supported by another pawn because he has this pawn on g5, so f5, for example, could be met with en passant. So I am hanging the pawn, but at the same time I notice that this pawn will be attacked twice, so this is nice. And in some variations I calculated on many possible responses to knight to e4, and another nice resource is well, once he moves the knight and this pawn is out of the way, I have the check here, attacking this undefended pawn because knight will no longer be there, and also I'm hitting the g5 square. So there are some tactical combinations which, if he goes wrong, I can maybe make use of. So I did go knight to e4. No, I did look this game with the engine because there are some very sharp moments. So I realized that engine doesn't like this move very much. This is because white doesn't have to take the knight. He can just continue pushing the pawn, which would be something better. But it's still I'm still slightly better, or the game is equal. But he did take the pawn, so knight takes e4. I took back with the pawn, hitting the knight, and now he retreated the knight like I thought he would, to d2, now hitting this undefended pawn. But at the same time, this pawn lacks defense, so I played bishop takes g5. He took the bishop, I took with the queen. And now he took the pawn. Okay. And now we come to this position in which he cannot so easily castle. I think my pieces are more active. His rook is misplaced. His king safety is compromised. He does have this open g file for the attack, but I don't see. I mean, how can he attack? There are so many pieces here, and the knight can come to defense. So I think here I was already much better. Not much better, but better. Okay, so I was looking. First candidate was queen to a5. Putting the check and then taking the pawn. But the problem is that it doesn't actually work, because if queen to a5, he can just block with the knight and also defend the pawn. So okay, it doesn't work. Then at one moment I saw this queen to g2 move, and I was very excited. I thought that, well, I'm winning because both rook and knight are undefended, and I'm hitting them both. So yeah, this surely wins the game on the spot. But then a few seconds later I realized that if I play queen to g2, he'll just play knight to g3, protecting the rook, and also my queen will be here, just captured. Not captured, but not very useful. So yeah, finally I decided to play queen to d5, which pins the knight, threatens the knight, also threatens this pawn, and I don't see very good defense here. So if he for example tries to defend this knight by moving queen to d3, then just f5 wins the knight, because the knight is pinned to the undefended rook. So this doesn't work. So how can he defend this knight? He can maybe go and play f3. Still the a2 pawn is hanging, and also here I gain a tempo. I could play something like rook to e8, hitting this undefended pawn if he moves the knight, and maybe threatening later on to play f5, and this is hanging all the time. So this is what I was thinking. But he didn't play any of this. He just retreated the knight to f3, and also protecting the bishop, like I saw before, if the queen was on g2. So okay, he got things covered, and now I can just take this pawn. I was thinking about a little bit, every time the queen goes to the queen side, you have to be careful, because the queen will be temporarily out of the game. So I have to think, if I bring my queen to the queen side, should I be able to come back in time if he starts the attack? And the good thing is, well, yes, because he had both these diagonals opened, so I can always come back with the tempo. So I did take the pawn, and if I need to come back quickly, I can give check and then come back, for example. And yeah, and even if I give check, if he decides to exchange queens, maybe I'm fine with this, maybe not. But and anyway, I can come back. If he decides to run, I can insert another check if I want, and so on. So I wasn't afraid that my queen will be out of the game. And now he continued with his original plan, just pushing the h pawn, so h4. And here it was the position in which I took some time to think about it. So the dilemma was, should I grab the pawn? If I grab the pawn, well, my queen is out of the game. My queen cannot come back since this pawn is blocking my queen. So and this is coming. So I have to calculate what will happen if he pushes h5. There are some very dangerous ideas here. For example, he takes the pawn, brings the queen here, and checkmates. So if I don't play this correctly, I will get checkmated. It looks like that I can defend. I should be able to defend, because I have the knight coming to defense, and also, like I said, I can bring the queen with checks. I can bring the queen very easily to the king side with tempo. So I was calculating some variants. How can he endanger me? And well, the dilemma was basically, should I grab another pawn? If I grab the pawn, I'm 2 pawns up, I'm giving him the attack. I have to defend, but if I manage to defend, if I manage to fight off his attack, then I will just be winning, because I will be 2 pawns up, and not any 2 pawns, but 2 connected pass pawns. So I decided to go for it. I decided to take this risk, which actually I didn't thought it was so much a risk, because like I said, this queen can come to the defense with the tempo. This was very important. So I did take the pawn. Here he surprised me a little bit. I thought that he would start to push the pawn immediately, but he inserted this very nice move, rook to b1, hitting my queen and also hitting my undefended pawn here. But luckily, like I said, his king safety is not his best asset in the position, so I can always move the queen with the tempo. And this happens when you don't castle. You just you know, your king is exposed, and your opponent can make all kinds of tempi just by the fact that your king is exposed. So queen to c3, check. He moved the king away. Of course, if he would like to exchange queens, I would be very happy. I mean, in this pure endgame with me having 2 connected pass pawns up, so this is purely winning. So of course he didn't want to exchange queens. He went astray. So I played queen to c4, check, and now you can see that my queen can come back to the game. He retreated his king, and now I have to take care of this pawn, this undefended pawn. If I push the pawn, then this one will be backward pawn. He can attack this pawn very easily, so I don't want to do this. So I just assign the rook to defend the pawn. I don't usually like to assigning the rook to defend the pawn, but well, as long as his rook is assigned to make a pressure or pawn, I can just as well, you know, waste my rook defending the pawn. I'm not concerned about this, especially since this is not just any pawn, you know. This rook is guarding the pawn, so it's like an embarrassing task for a rook to guard the pawn. But it's not just any pawn. These 2 pawns are the pawns which will win the game. So it's worthwhile to assign the rook to one of them. Now he played h5, so he went for the attack, and I just brought queen back to the defense. And now if he takes, I can just take with the queen, and you know, I will pin his knight. Anyway, my queen is now participating in the defense. He brought his queen closer, so queen to f3. And here again, I was thinking a lot. I just couldn't find the right plane. I was thinking about g5, you know, closing the position, maybe g5, then maybe f6, giving the love to my king, put the rook here, and this was probably the best plan here. Now when I look at this post-mortem in the analysis, but for some reason I didn't want to completely block this file. I'm not sure why I didn't play this. For some reason I didn't like this. I was thinking that, well, maybe he will take, then I will take with the queen, and my queen will be here. I'm not sure, but this looks like a good play, you know, just giving the luft. I don't need to be scared of the checkmate. I can bring my other rooks here. Of course, being a 2 pawns up, I want to exchange rooks, queens, everything. So if I could manage to exchange queens, it would be great. Anyway, I played here rook to e8, rook f to e8. Well, the idea is to control this e4 square. So maybe when the knight comes to f6, I can maybe jump to e4 and maybe force some kind of queen exchange, because you can see that this his rook is undefended. So if my queen could come here somehow without being captured by the knight, then I will have you know, double attack, and he will be able to exchange queens. And if we exchange queens, I'm 2 pawns up, and I should be winning this one easily. So in this position, my opponent responded by pushing the h pawn, so h6. So he wants to open the h file, and this is logical. I mean, logical attempts by him. So his plan is, you know, to open the file just to get rid of this pawn, and then once he opens the file, maybe he can bring the queen, not immediately, but maybe someday, and put the king up, bring another rook, and go on and checkmate me. So this was his. I think this was his only plan in the game and only chance in the game. And it may look easy the way I defended this attack, but right there on the board, it didn't look easy. I was thinking very hard, calculating, because there is only, you know, in these kind of positions, I thought I was better, and I thought that I was winning. But it only takes one mistake, just one idea, one missed idea by my opponent, and I can get checkmated. So it can look easy in the post-mortem, but it wasn't easy in the real game. So here I was thinking what to do, and yeah, I thought, okay, he'll probably take the pawn, I will take with the king, and I don't really care because I don't see any continuation, because he cannot bring the queen immediately, for obvious reasons. So I thought, well, when I put the king here, I can slide my rook to h8, maybe exchange some pieces and so on. So I decided to put my knight to the game, knight to f6, and Ng really doesn't like this move. Ng wants me to play more actively, so the Ng recommendation, in which he gives me huge advantage, is this queen to this d4, you know, making the queen active, offering the exchange, and you know, playing for more activity. And okay, this is probably better, but my mentality was completely different. So I just wanted to defend, I wanted to consolidate my pieces, I wanted to make sure that he doesn't have any room for any surprises, and you know, fight off the attack, and then just continue playing chess with 2 pawns up. So this is why I played knight to f6. He took the pawn like I thought he would. I took back with the king, and now, yeah, my idea was knight to e4, and he probably saw this and he played rook to h4, which is an interesting move, I think, because now there is no way I can make any progress here. And this will be nice progress, like I said, because from e4 I could attack the undefended rook and for the queen exchange and so on. So I continue with my original intent, and I decided just to exchange this rook. So every exchange I make, it's a little bit easier for me. He has less pieces for the attack. I have a nice endgame with 2 extra pawns and so on. So he took the rook, and now of course I cannot take with this rook because he'll come, he'll take the pawn, and probably not just this pawn, he'll threaten this pawn, he'll penetrate the position, maybe he can even come with the queen to c7. So I didn't want his pieces penetrating my position, so I just took with the king here. And here he very quickly played queen to f4, which is a very tricky move when you look at it. So first of all, it threatens the undefended rook. Second, it threatens this unpleasant check, which actually doesn't give him anything, but it looks very unpleasant. And the third thing, he's attacking the knight. So I had several ideas, and I even briefly consider a move like this queen to e8, you know, defending the rook, and if he gives check, I can maybe transfer my queen here. So I was thinking something about this, and then I realized that if I play queen to e8, my knight is hanging. I'll just lose the piece. So very tricky move, you know, attacking a defended piece, threatening this very unpleasant check, which luckily doesn't have any continuation. So if his king was like here, then this could be deadly blow, you know. Check, I go here, he goes here, and I'm not sure. it will be just a mate. So this is what I was talking about. It looks easy when you look at in the post-mortem, but it's not easy in the game. Just one small mistake can lead to a checkmate. So I was thinking a lot how to respond to this. If I move this rook, he will take my pawn and penetrate. So I cannot move the rook. I cannot move the queen because the queen is guarding the knight. So the only way, the only defense I saw was knight to d7. Now covering the rook, and well, I'm not afraid of this check. So he did play the check. I played king to g8, and now he wanted to make the execution. So he played this king to g2 move, you know, planning to bring the rook here, and then did our checkmate, or rather here. So, like I said, I was thinking defensively here. Again, the engine suggests that queen to d5 is with the check is a very active move, because, well, wherever he moves his king, he has to cut off his rook. So if he moves like here, then the rook cannot come here, and I was defended. Also, if he comes like I don't know, here, then again this doesn't work. So this check was a great active move in which I could just, you know, stop the threat and also make my queen more active. But like I said, I was thinking more defensively. I just wanted to make absolutely sure that he cannot checkmate me. These kind of moves, I even considered this move briefly, and this looks nice, but there is always a possibility that I don't see something, and you know, mate is very close here, so I just want to make sure that I will not get checkmated. So I played queen to f6, you know, just anticipating his rook coming to h1 and then defending. So this is what happened. Rook to h1 and now queen to g7, and now I'm defended. My queen and king are covering all these squares, and I'm defended. If he decides to exchange queens, it's great. Of course, he doesn't want to exchange queens, so he went back with queen to f4, hitting my undefended rook. But now his rook is no longer on b1, so this pawn is no longer hanging, so I can move my rook away. And I decided to play rook to c8. I was thinking a lot about this, and the logic behind this move is to look the penetration squares. So when the queen is near your camp, you need to look for the penetration squares. How can queen penetrate? And you are looking in the first 3 ranks. So how can the queen penetrate first 3 ranks? And you can see that this is very strong. This c7 is a very strong penetration square. So if queen was to come to c7, she will attack both pawn and the knight. So I don't want queen here. So this is why I play a rook to c8. And now the queen cannot penetrate. The queen can penetrate, kind of penetrate to d6, but I'm not afraid. There are plenty of things I can do here. And here he played a move which I anticipated, and this is again playing for tricks. Queen to g4 looks very nasty because both my knight and my rook are undefended. So it's very similar like the position when his knight was here and his rook was here. And the defense is similar, so I saw this, I anticipated this, just a knight to b6 covering the rook. And now you can see my position, everything is covered. I don't have any weak squares. So if you look penetration squares for the queen, these 3 squares are all covered. My knight is protected by the pawn, my rook is protected by the knight, my king is in no danger of being checkmated. His knight is dominated by the g6 pawn, so he cannot go you know, forward with the knight and attack me. So everything is covered. So at this moment I finally thought to myself, okay, now I have defended, I have fought off his attack, and my plan for the next of the game would just be to push the pawn. So push the passed pawns, maybe bring the rook behind the passed pawn, and you know, just playing for the pawns. This was the idea, but here in this moment he made a blunder, and the game ended immediately. So he played knight to e4, of course allowing me to play f5. I didn't play f5 immediately. I was very careful. I was calculating, you know, I was thinking, if I play f5, can his knight deliver some kind of nasty check or the attack on the queen? And I realized that he cannot, that there is no forcing moves here. I mean, he can attack my rook, but then he'll just lose the queen. So f5, can knight do something with tempo? No, it cannot. Can queen do something with tempo? I just considered literally all the legal moves from the queen. So I mean, in this stage of the game, in which it is about winning or losing, I don't want to risk anything. So I literally, you know, thought about every legal move of the queen, and I made sure that no legal move from the queen can give him tempo, and whatever he plays with the queen, I can just, after f5, I could just take the knight. And I was thinking a lot about these moves and this particular move, and the people were watching me when I was playing, and they were probably thinking like, what is he waiting for? And my opponent, at one moment, he saw what I have, and he was like, he was shaking his head, and yeah, he probably thought as well, what was I thinking? But yeah, I did think. I made many blunders in my life, so I want to make sure that everything will be fine. And finally, I played f5, and he resigned immediately. So he saw this move before I played it. Okay, so this was the game. Yeah, interesting game. Like I said, it looks easy when you saw it in post-mortem, but you know, playing the game and willingly taking 2 pawns, allowing him for the attack, and by all principles, I should be able to defend because I can bring my queen back. I have the knight, I have rooks, I have everything to defend. But you know, just one small mistake could lead to checkmate. So I was very tense. I was thinking very hard, very intensely in this game. It was not a long game because I spent most of my time and he spent like 5 minutes. So the game lasted about 2 hours in total, but I was really exhausted after the game. I just came home, I went to bed, I took a 3-hour snap after this, and well, I woke up and recorded this video. Okay, thank you for watching. I will, like I said, I will continue analyzing my over-the-board games, so stay tuned, and I will see you soon with the next game. Cheers.